Hey, how's it going everyone? This is Salim with Flip for Figs, and today I'm going to show you a tour of my collection.
Flip for Figs.
When I flip, you flip, we flip.
Alright guys, so this is my action figure collection. So I'm going to start over here with my Hot Toys Star Wars figures. Now, Hot Toys Star Wars is something that I'd been wanting to get into for a long time, but I just felt like it was too deep a rabbit hole to go down, especially after I had done so with my Marvel over here. So Marvel was actually the first set of Hot Toys that I bought. I discovered them after watching Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness and wanting a Wanda figure. And I saw this one, I saw a YouTube preview video from Justin's collection, and well, the rest was history. I ended up picking up like a bunch of these Hot Toys Marvel figures, you know, within a few months of each other. And it was very costly, very enjoyable, but very costly. And, you know, fortunately, there was still a bunch that were on their way to being released, so it kind of forced me to slow down. But with the case of Star Wars, there's so many that have been released, so it's been really, really addictive just buying and especially trying to catch up. But similarly to with Marvel, it was kind of like random that I decided to get into getting Star Wars. Now, I've always been a big Star Wars fan, so you'll see here that Star Wars Lego is something that I've collected for a really long time. I have the large UCS Star Wars sets, and I'll do a separate video on these. But if you're here, you're probably here because of action figures. But needless to say, I have always been a big Star Wars fan. Kind of hadn't been keeping up with the Disney Plus shows until Andor, and then, you know, I heard the buzz and I decided to give it a shot. Watched Andor, it made me kind of, you know, reminisce about Star Wars, decided to rewatch the prequels, and simultaneously after watching the prequels, I saw a sideshow, you know, Instagram post about General Grievous, and I was like, oh man. And so I ended up pre-ordering Grievous, and then basically went down this rabbit hole. Now, the first figure that I actually bought for Star Wars was Jango Fett, and I was really interested in kind of the Attack of the Clones series. Even though it's not my favorite of the Star Wars movies, I do love all the character designs and everything like that, and it's actually one of the most fleshed out lines that Hot Toys has done, and the majority of them came out really recently. I think only like, you know, Count Dooku and you know, Yoda were the ones that were released a while ago. Everything else, and Jango Fett, everything else was really within the last couple years, and they were all part of that, you know, anniversary set with the cool retro packaging. And so, you know, I'm a big sucker for packaging too, so that definitely didn't help. But let's go back over here. So with the A New Hope series, so A New Hope is also a really fleshed out line. So Hot Toys released a bunch kind of all at once a while back. They released, you know, Farm Boy Luke here. They released Old Ben. They released Princess Leia in that, you know, her iconic outfit with the buns. They also released, you know, Stormtroopers, which came as a solo pack or a 2-pack. Vader and Tarkin, which also came separately or as a 2-pack, as well as Han Solo and Chewbacca, which came as solo and a 2-pack. And then they also had Han Solo and Luke Skywalker disguised as Stormtroopers that had the same head sculpts. So I have the Han Solo one, and it did come with that kind of Death Star background. And I wanted 2 of those Death Star backgrounds, so I ended up picking up this Return of the Jedi Stormtrooper, which is a reissue. And you can tell it's Return of the Jedi because it's hard to kind of tell in the video, but the eyes on the visor are green instead of black like they are on the A New Hope one. I'm more of a fan of the A New Hope design, but I really wanted that Death Star background, and people don't really sell them separately, and if they do, it's almost the cost of the figure. So I figured, why not? And until I get the Luke Stormtrooper disguise, I will just have this Stormtrooper there waving and pretending to be Luke. you know, I think when TK421 or when they ask about, you know, what are you doing at your post or whatever, I don't remember if it's Han or Luke in the costume at the time, but, or in the disguise rather. Anyways, so here you'll see I have Farm Boy Luke, old Ben Kenobi. I added C-3PO and R2-D2. Now, C-3PO is technically a Return of the Jedi figure as well, because he comes with Salacious Crumb, who I have over there. But I mean, it's the only original trilogy C-3PO we've got, and I really like it with the A New Hope set. And so R2-D2 was not specific to any movie, it was just the deluxe version of R2. Now, it does come with the Princess Leia hologram there, so I guess you could consider it A New Hope, but it also comes with a lot of the other tools and things. So he kind of works for any scene you want, but I'm using him as A New Hope. Now, the Jawa and Gonk droid, that's another set that I don't think was specific to any movie, because the Gonk droid is from Return of the Jedi, obviously infamous scene when he's getting tortured, and the Jawa is in a lot of Star Wars movies, but you know, I think most iconically in A New Hope. Now that set I picked up, you know, obviously most of these I picked up aftermarket, so I paid a lot more than some of them are worth. Now, with most of these Hot Toys, I actually really do feel like I'm getting my money's worth, but with the Jawa Gonk droid set, that was one that when I got it, I was like, did I really just spend this much on this set? So, you'll see back there, the Sand Trooper is a great one. It's harder to find now. There are similar ones in the Mandalorian, or I think Rogue One lines, but this is the actual Sand Trooper, the one that says Sand Trooper. The other ones are like Stormtrooper Sergeant or whatever. And he comes with a ton of accessories, including that little, like, you know, flying droid. Forgive me, I don't know the exact names for a lot of these things, but it's a pretty cool accessory there. And then R5-D4, he actually came as part of the, I think it's the Mandalorian, not the Book of Boba Fett. I'm pretty sure it's the Mandalorian, but basically he came with a pit droid as well as BD, who I'm hiding back there. I wasn't as familiar with BD. I think that's his name, yeah, BD, because I think he's from a video game originally, but he was obviously in the Book of Boba Fett and the Mandalorian. So I have R5-D4 there behind the Sand Trooper, and yeah, that's my A New Hope line. Now, Han and Chewie 2-pack, they are coming. I probably should have waited to film this video, but I just couldn't wait any longer. I've been putting this off. And then Vader Tarkin are also coming. So I don't really have room to fit them, but one thing I should have shared is that I do have some Modu cases on the way, and as much as I kind of enjoy these grouped together looks, it'll be nice to have the Modu cases because they'll be giving me a lot of extra space. Now, I ordered Modu cases originally last year because I have a bunch of Resin Statues, which you'll kind of start seeing down below. And so I got the Max, I think it's called the Max 140. So I'm gonna have a lot of real estate to play around with, but for now, these bestas will have to do. Now here I have Return of the Jedi, so the Royal Guards. Those were actually the first Star Wars Hot Toys figures that I really wanted to get. I just loved the Royal Guards, and I knew I needed 2 of them, and by the time that I even discovered them, they were already, you know, selling for almost 500 a piece. Unfortunately, Hot Toys did not offer these in a 2-pack, even though they should have. I mean, Snow Troopers and, you know, Stormtroopers were offered as a 2-pack, but not these guys. And I mean, if any figures should have been in a 2-pack, it's these ones, because who's gonna really buy just one Royal Guard? I mean, I guess if you're buying them aftermarket like I was, it's hard to stomach paying so much for a pretty simple figure with little to no accessories, but fortunately I found somebody who on Facebook Marketplace who was selling his used, and I got a pretty good deal for both of them, almost, you know, 2 for the price of 1, actually, aftermarket, obviously. Now I have the Scout Trooper there. Scout Trooper was kind of an impulse buy, and I regretted it afterwards because I should have gotten the one for the speeder bike, but at the time I didn't know where I would be displaying these, and I figured, okay, you know, eventually I can just get another one with the speeder bike if I want it. But now I'm in a dilemma because I want to get another Luke Return of the Jedi figure so he can wear the Endor clothes, because this Luke Skywalker that I have here is actually the deluxe one that came with the Endor outfit. But I need a second Luke body, and then what I'm hoping to display in the Modu cases is you know, Luke in his Endor outfit, and then a scout trooper also, both on speeder bikes to recreate that chase scene. And what, frustratingly enough, Hot Toys decided to make the white speeder bike from The Mandalorian available on its own, but not the iconic brown speeder bike. So I need to buy 2 Scout Trooper speeder bike sets to eventually recreate that scene. And I already have this Scout Trooper, so I'll probably end up selling this solo Scout Trooper, put the money towards a set, and so, because I'm gonna need eventually 2. But yeah, these are the dilemmas collectors like myself face, and now that I say it out loud, that's probably why Hot Toys didn't make it available solo, because they figured, okay, let's force people to buy the full set. Now I have Leia here with Wicket. That was a great set that I picked up. I also paid a lot of money for it, but unlike the Jawa Gonk Droid set, this set I really feel like I got my money's worth. They come with a ton of accessories, a ton of, you know, Leia has a different variety of ways to display her with the outfit, with or without the helmet, with or without the poncho. And then Wicket comes with a bunch of cool accessories like this Stormtrooper helmet, and there's also a Death Star, not a pilot, but not a gunner either. I guess just a Death Star worker helmet. I don't know the name of that, forgive me. And the little, you know, drumsticks here so they can bang on those. It's really cool. And then we have the Emperor in the back, and then this is the Return of the Jedi 40th Anniversary Vader set. This was my first time dealing with like a light up figure that was USB, because a lot of my Marvel figures like Thanos and stuff use those little cell batteries. Now I know Fusion Reactors offers a solution for that, and I actually did already order some Fusion Reactors so I can keep my R2-D2 and C-3PO lit, as well as a bunch of lightsabers for any figure that did not include a USB lightsaber. And of course, since I ordered a green Fusion Reactor saber for Luke, I figured Vader's saber would look kind of, you know, lackluster next to a Fusion Reactor's Luke saber, so I did order one for Vader. And I figure I'll use that USB light up lightsaber for my A New Hope Vader when he comes, the one that comes in the Tarkin 2-pack. So yeah, that's Return of the Jedi. You got the Emperor back there, the Royal Guard, Scout Trooper, Leia, Wicket, and Vader. And I do have the Han Solo Return of the Jedi coming, so look out for a review on that. Now here is a set I really love, which is interesting because the movie is not my favorite prequel. It's actually my least favorite prequel. I know most people still put it ahead of Phantom Menace, but because I'm such a Darth Maul lover, I have to rank Phantom Menace higher, and obviously Revenge of the Sith is the creme de la creme of the prequels. But look how cool this set is. I mean, we got Anakin here with 2 light up lightsabers, which is what the Artisan Anakin should have came with. We'll talk about that later. And then we got Yoda, we got Padme. I'm a huge Natalie Portman fan. She was one of my first crushes as a kid. Got the Clone Pilot, the classic Clone Trooper. Now I'm a big fan of Phase 1 clones. So anytime I have the option of displaying Phase 1 versus Phase 2, I'm gonna display Phase 1. Got the Battle Droid there, still waiting on the sand-colored Battle Droid from Phantom Menace. But right now we got this, you know, reddish-brown one. Got the Super Battle Droid, Count Dooku, and Jango Fett. So I really love that set. Mace Windu, I've been reluctant to pick up because it seems a given that we'll get a new updated one since the head sculpt was notoriously bad. I mean, I think even for me, who I kind of give Hot Toys a pass most of the time, that Mace Windu head sculpt was just really poor, especially when you consider how, you know, well the Anakin, Padme, and Count Dooku one came out despite being so much older. Well, obviously Count Dooku was older. These two kind of came out around the same time as Mace, but yeah. I feel like Sam Jackson's likeness is not really a hard one to get to. It's not, you know, like a Ewan McGregor or one of these other actors that's kind of harder to nail. But I don't know what Hot Toys was thinking. Now, aside from Mace Windu, there's also an R2-D2 and Attack of the Clones C-3PO. And I will be getting both, and I plan to display a C-3PO's body with the battle droid head and have R2 in front of him dragging C-3PO's head on the wire, which I think will be a pretty cool look. Now over here, this is kind of my hodgepodge section because these are figures that I don't have enough of in any particular line to dedicate a whole Besta to them. So I have kind of episode 1, also Empire Strikes Back, and Revenge of the Sith here. So the Pit Droid, he's with my episode 1 collection. I also plan to get a Tusken Raider to display with episode 1 just because there's so few in those line and I want to flesh it out. I got the Darth Maul and Speeder Bike 2.0 on pre-order. Hopefully that'll come soon. I just picked up this Anakin Artisan, which I'm such a huge fan of. I mean, I know that people were not happy compared to the prototype, but I just love it. I think my hair came out pretty good. I know some people have had, the hair's kind of been a mixed bag, but I really liked, you know, the hair that mine came with right out of the box. I didn't have to fuss with it or do anything. The one biggest gripe I had, and again, I'm pretty easy to please, Hot Toys, but the one biggest gripe I had is that they show him in all the shots kind of with the 2 lit lightsabers, and it's like they only gave you 1 light up hilt. I mean, that is just ridiculous to me for an Artisan Deluxe figure. I'm not even mad that the base doesn't light up as much as I am about the hilt. That's one thing that I just couldn't look past. Now here I got Qui-Gon Jinn. Obviously, you know, great Jedi. I hope we eventually get a Ewan McGregor from episode 1. But obviously we just got an Attack of the Clones one on pre-order, and I know everyone's holding out for Revenge of the Sith, either reissue or 2.0, so I don't know how high on the priority list the episode 1 look will be, but we'll see. And then that's a Play Toy Amidala. It's actually the only third-party / custom figure in my collection. I've been kind of reluctant to go down that route, even with Sideshow figures, but I just, you know, nothing screams episode 1 like Padme in that, you know, royal outfit. And when I saw that it was made, I knew I had to have it. I got a pretty decent deal on it, and I just feel like it just screams Star Wars episode 1, and I love it. Picked up Kit Fisto recently. He's great. I can't wait to get Plo Koon as well as Seisi Tin. I never pronounced that right. Hoping we get Ki-Adi-Mundi, Ayla Sakura, and some of the other ones like Shakti from the Revenge of the Sith, Order 66 scene. And then here in the back, we got my Empire Strikes Back. I got the Snow Trooper 2-pack. I got the Luke, you know, pilot Luke. I don't fully know what the difference is between this and like a Red 5 X-Wing fighter pilot Luke look, other than this one is pretty weathered. I don't know if the gloves would be the same. These look snow specific and kind of that breathing apparatus on his chest, but I feel like he could pass for an X-Wing pilot too, but obviously the snow base back there you can't really see is definitely, you know, the Hoth look. So I have him flanked by the Snow Troopers, and then I just picked up this Boba Fett Empire Strikes Back 40th anniversary edition, which is a great figure. So yeah, you know, I do have Revenge of the Sith Obi-Wan that just arrived. I haven't unboxed and reviewed it yet. I don't really know where I'm going to display it. I'm going to have to kind of sneak some of these figures into DTOFs or move some of these resin statues into storage until my Maju cases come. But yeah, let's move down to the other Hot Toys I have. So I have the Loki Endgame Loki there. I also have Moon Knight. I have Hela from Thor Ragnarok. I got just the classic Venom, or, you know, the classic movie Venom, I guess. And now they finally, after all these different varieties of Venom, they're making a classic Venom with the white Spider-Man logo. But I don't know if I'm gonna get it because everything I have is kind of MCU centric, and I just feel like that's another rabbit hole I can't go down of having like the classic comic book looks. Now, if they make a Carnage, then I'll have to get it because I was not a fan of the MCU Carnage, especially the height. He's not supposed to be that much taller than Venom, and it really bugged me. I got Mysterio there, Ant-Man, and then over here I have the Guardians of the Galaxy. I have the Groot. This was my favorite Groot. I know he didn't last very long, just the first movie, but this is my favorite look. And when he grew up again in the third Guardians of the Galaxy, he just looked really funky to me. It looked like a totally different person, which never made sense to me, like why Groot would look different and why he got so like swole looking, especially since he was so thin in Endgame and Infinity War. But I'd never understood that design choice. I was not a fan of his, you know, Guardians of the Galaxy 3 look. I got Yondu back there, Gamora, Star-Lord, which is from Infinity War, And then I got Drax here, which is from the original Guardians of the Galaxy. Drax is not a favorite character of mine by any means, and I kind of was upset with myself that I spent so much on this figure, but you know, I'm a completionist and I needed to have the whole line. Got Nebula, Mantis back there. I put Thanos in there just because I didn't have room for him anywhere else. And then, yeah, Groot and Rocket. Now, one thing that I don't like is that all the bases are inconsistent because they're all from different movies, but I don't really feel like investing in a bunch of different bases to kind of get them similar. And then here I have kind of the main Avengers crew. I got Vision from WandaVision, Wanda from WandaVision. I got Endgame, Hawkeye, Endgame, Captain America, Endgame, Iron Man, Endgame, Black Widow, Infinity War, Doctor Strange, and then Infinity War Thor, which is a really cool look. And then Spider-Man from Homecoming, the original release, and then Hulk back there from, what is the second movie called? Age of Ultron. So those are all my Hot Toys figures. And then for my resin statues, these are from First 4 Figures. I have Mumbo Jumbo with all the transformations. So if any of you have played Banjo-Kazooie, I got the Termite and the washer machine Banjo coming, and then I'll have the whole set, which is just a dream to me. I never thought that I would have those. I got Cortex there from Crash Bandicoot. These, I don't even know if it's permissible to share these on YouTube, but these are Solar Studios. These are, you know, custom, or I guess, third-party unlicensed figures. Now that's Freya from Final Fantasy IX, and I have Auron from Final Fantasy X, and then up here I have Zidane from Final Fantasy IX. I hate the way he's displayed right now. He's actually probably the biggest reason I decided to get Maju cases. I wasn't even a huge fan of him, but once I got Freya, I saw someone selling him, and I figured at the time I thought I would get the whole line. Now I've decided to only get a couple from each of the games, so we'll see. And then over here, kind of my classic Sonic. I have classic Eggman, classic Metal Sonic, classic Super Sonic, and those are from First 4 Figures as well. And then they're currently displayed on top of the fridge. I hope First 4 Figures doesn't see me, because this is just blasphemous to display them like this. They were in the Bestas, but then, you know, I was too excited and couldn't wait to get the Hot Toys figures, so those ended up going in the Bestas. But I have Shadow, I have the 30th anniversary Sonic back there, and then I have Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles, which are all the classic kind of versions. I'm more of a fan of the classic Sonic looks than the modern. Then I got Crash Bandicoot, and then Aku Aku back there. So those are fun. I'm excited to have them all in the Maju case. And then over here, I have Mario and Yoshi and Bowser. These are also First 4 Figures. Great statues, I just love those. And then, again, I won't go through all the Lego sets, but if you want to see the rest of my action figures, here's the Storm Collectibles that I have. So I have, you know, Street Fighter over here, and then I have Mortal Kombat, kind of, I guess, OG Mortal Kombat / Mortal Kombat 2 with Goro and King Taro flanking Shao Kahn and the ninjas. And then over here I have kind of the Mortal Kombat 3 with Nightwolf, the Sector Cyrax and Smoke, Motaro, which is the figure that got me into Storm Collectibles, because I loved Motaro when I was a kid. I just was obsessed with the Centaur, I don't know why. And so when I saw that they were making that, I had to have it. And then below here I have some Tekken figures, which is a line I wish they fleshed out more. I was hoping that since Storm Collectibles made like people like Motaro and Shibo, they would make like Yoshimitsu and maybe Kuma or Mokujin, but they didn't. They just made a few of these guys. And then over here I have my Final Fantasy stuff. So Final Fantasy Ring Arts, which I'm just so happy they finally made a full line of Final Fantasy VII figures in the same scale, because when I was a kid, nothing drove me more nuts than having everybody except Yuffie, Kate Sith, and Sid in the Bandai line. And then they kept making other lines of statues and figures, and you know, I think they completed one, but they didn't have Kate Sith on the MOG. They didn't make Barrett and Sid. And then with other lines like Advent Children, it was just not the classic look. And then with the remake line, which I have over here, they haven't completed the line yet. But this setup, finally we got the whole line of figures there. Then I have all of the Final Fantasy IX crew with Odin in the back. And then here is Kingdom Hearts. And then down here is some extra Final Fantasy stuff like a Chocobo, and then Shantoto from Final Fantasy XI, Estinian from Final Fantasy XIV, and just a classic Bahamut. And then over here, Play Arts Kai, I have the Final Fantasy Remake series. That's a Dirge of Cerberus Vincent. So they've announced a remake Vincent, but he hasn't come out yet. And then here, just kind of classic Final Fantasy characters. I have Squall, Lightning, Noctis, Tidus, Terra, and then Kain, Highwind, and the Warrior of Light back there, and also, shoot, I forget her name now, the bunny chick from Final Fantasy 12. I don't know why her name is slipping me right now. And then over here, I have some extra Final Fantasy VII figures. I have Cloud on the Daytona. I have Reno, Rude, and Rufus waiting for Elena to come in. And I also have Jessie there. And then Kingdom Hearts 3, Play Arts Kai. And then over here, I have, these are from First Four Figures as well. I got Knights and Riala from Nights into Dreams, which is a game that not many people played, but I was just obsessed with the character design, and it was the reason I wanted a Sega Saturn, and nobody wanted a Sega Saturn, so you can thank Knights for me being the one guy who wanted a Sega Saturn. I have some classic Spider-Man action figures from the animated series here. I just love these characters. When I was a kid, I had all of these with the original releases, and I went on a trip overseas, and somebody stole all of my action figures, and I was devastated. And at the time, there was no eBay, there was no buying stuff online, so I couldn't, get these back. And so when they started kind of re-releasing these retro collections, I just knew I had to have them. And then over here, I have some NECA figures, which are just the original Universal monsters. Creature from the Black Lagoon, Frankenstein, Dracula, Wolfman, and the Mummy. And then up here, some Jakks-Pacific Sonic with the classic row on the bottom, and then the more modern characters on the top. So yeah, those are my action figures. And again, I'll do more in-depth video on the Lego stuff I have, but I'll also obviously do kind of a tour once I assemble the Maju cases and get everything in there. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed checking out my collection, and I'll see you next time.
When I flip, you flip, we flip.